All right. For today's deep dive, we are jumping into a snapshot of the U.S. in November 2025.
And it is a really powerful mix. We're seeing intense legislative fights at home.
But also some major, and I mean major, maneuvering on the world stage.
Exactly. The core tension we found is this state of, well, dynamic instability. It's, maximum friction at home.
Right.
But that's being balanced by these huge stabilizing trade and diplomatic deals abroad.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's start with that friction at home.
Well, first off, the administration is using a ton of executive orders. It's creating this kind of policy whiplash.
Just reversing prior policies left and right. We're seeing big impacts on higher education, the whole regulatory scene.
Across the board. And then, the real flashpoint is happening in Congress.
The SPEED Act.
The SPEED Act, yeah. It's a sweeping bill favored by Republicans, and its whole purpose is to significantly weaken the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA.
And the political pushback on that is intense. Democrats are framing it as, I think the quote was, an all-out war on clean energy.
That's the one. And they're warning that it's going to drive up your utility bills. It's very heated.
And we can't forget this is all happening with the shadow of that huge 43-day government shutdown still lingering.
Right. That's still expected to act as a drag on growth for the fourth quarter.
So it almost seems like with all this fire at home, the focus is shifting to locking down some stability anywhere else they can find it.
That really seems to be the strategy. The geopolitical moves are incredibly high stakes. Take eastern Ukraine, for instance.
Where the military escalation is still continuing.
It is, but the U.S. delegation just put forth this massive 28-point peace plan, and it's really controversial.
Because it reportedly calls for Kyiv to cede some land, right? Some non-occupied land even.
Exactly. And then look at the Middle East. At the same time, the U.S. is deepening its ties with Saudi Arabia.
Even as clashes in Gaza are still going on, despite that UN peace resolution.
Right. They're getting major non-NATO ally status, big F-35 sales.
What? You said there was a stabilizing factor in all this.
Yes. And this is where it gets really interesting. The most concrete gain is the U.S.-China trade arrangement that was just struck this month.
Okay, wait a second. How does that work? They're reducing the tariff rate on Chinese imports, but doesn't that undercut their whole protectionist stance?
It does, but it's a trade-off. It's about strategic resource security. So yes, the tariffs come down a little bit.
And in return?
In return, China has committed to these huge purchases of U.S. agricultural products. Massive amounts of soybeans and other farm goods through 2028.
So a big win for the Farm Belt.
A huge win. But here's the crucial part. China also agreed to eliminate its export controls on rare earth elements and other critical minerals.
Wow. Okay, so that's a massive strategic win then. You're essentially decoupling a major U.S. vulnerability from Beijing's control.
Precisely. It's a very big deal.
So let's connect this back to the overall economy, because you mentioned resilience. It just seems so counterintuitive.
It is. This is the economic paradox. The effective U.S. tariff rate right now is the highest it has been since 1934.
Since 1934. That fact alone should be screaming recession. Why isn't that a bigger political problem?
Because, and this is the really strange part, the economic fallout has been softer than expected. Businesses are just eating the costs. They're absorbing a lot of that pressure themselves rather than passing it all on to you, the consumer.
Through tighter margins, I assume?
Tighter margins, supply chain efficiencies, you name it. So the Fed has paused rate hikes at 4.5%.
Yeah.
And GDP growth is forecast to slow maybe to 1.7, 1.9%.
It's still outside of recession territory.
Still outside, yes. And when you look at inflation, which is still sticky at around 3%, the data shows it's really being driven by services.
Things like housing and financial services, not the goods that these big trade deals are meant to affect.
Exactly. For now, the economy is proving resilient to a protectionist policy we haven't seen since the Great Depression.
So let's just synthesize these two big opposing forces. You have this intense political heat at home, the SPEED Act, the shutdown.
And at the exact same time, you have these incredibly ambitious stabilizing efforts happening abroad. The China deal, that Ukraine peace plan.
It's a real balancing act.
It is. And it leaves us with an important question for you to track. If inflation is primarily being driven by those sticky domestic service costs, how long can these trade wins, which are all about reducing the cost of goods, really offset those pressures here at home?